I don't want to film anymore. I'm just going to eat the rest of this pie. All right, so this is one of my favorite treats and not too labor intensive when it comes to mimicking pie. So I call this an apple crumble. There's no crust on the bottom. I do sort of an oat butter crust on the top. It's delicious. It's not really high in sugar, although there is some sugar in it. It makes me so happy to eat this. So we're gonna need 8 apples. I like to have 4 Granny Smiths, and I usually use 4 Fuji apples. And I think Granny Smith is a good base because it has a really lovely tart quality to it, and then you can complement it with some other apple. But the first thing we're gonna do is squeeze the juice of an entire lemon into this bowl. And if you had a juicer or one of those machines that like come down and juice the lemon, that would be great. But this way you get to really use your biceps and, you know, sort of like, remember in the days when guys used to do that thing with their chest and they made like their boobs come up? Is that happening? Can anybody get a close up? I should have worn like a more cleavage shirt for this one so you could see my boobs going up and down, because I am kind of in shape. They might do that. They probably need to do that. I really do like making pies, making things from scratch, because the love that you're putting into it, like I'm squeezing this lemon like I love you, and you're gonna taste that in the pie. Okay, I think I got most of the juice out of that. Now I'm gonna start peeling the apples. So this is the quickest way I have found for what I want to accomplish. I chop off one end, I chop off the other end. I take my paring knife, I go around the apple to get the skin off. I use this is like a trash thing, which is a great idea when you're cooking like this, because rather than having to keep going in the garbage or having all your scraps pile up, you can put it in that. Okay, then I take my bigger knife and I go around the core. So I'm sort of making a square of the core that I'm gonna throw away. And then I have my 4 pieces of apple. And the trick really is to slice them very thin. So that's what I'm trying to get. And then those go right into the bowl. Now I'm gonna do that 7 more times. So just like that, I got all the apples sliced, and I have that squeezed lemon in there. So to this mixture, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of flour, and you'll see I'm not particularly precious. That kind of looks like a tablespoon to me, so that's what I'm doing. Then I'm gonna do a 1/4 cup of Turbinado sugar, and I am going to sprinkle, I'm gonna throw things everywhere. I'm gonna sprinkle cinnamon over the top. Not really giving you an amount there, but if I had to guess, I'd say that's a teaspoon or 2. Kind of toss this all together. So the lemon juice was pretty much on the bottom, and I just want to get that over all the apples, getting that all tossed. And then I have a cube of melted butter here. I probably won't use all this butter, but I'm gonna show you how I use it, and then you can decide for yourself when you make it for yourself. But I'm gonna pour a little of the melted butter in the bottom of this pie pan. I am rubbing it around, getting it all on the sides and the bottom. And it's pretty liberal. You can see it's kind of running. And I want that because I'm gonna take a little bit more, probably just like a teaspoon or like a sprinkling like you would with salt. I'm sprinkling a little bit of the sugar on the bottom of the pan. And what that's gonna do when it bakes, it kind of almost turns candy-ish on the bottom of the apples, and it's really yummy. Then the apples go into the pie pan. If I didn't get all that flour, that lemon juice, I'm gonna try to do it now. I like to form it so that it's kind of a little bit of a tower, so that there's more in the center and it's lower on the sides. So then I'm gonna use this same bowl, and I'm gonna take a cup of oats and another 1/4 cup of Turbinado sugar. Then I'm gonna, again, sprinkle some cinnamon around in there. 2 tablespoons of flour in this, and a capful of vanilla. Notice how I've saved myself washing a teaspoon measure. Okay, so I'm sort of tossing that around a little bit. And this is gonna be our crust. So this is the part where you get to decide. So right now I've got almost 4 ounces of melted butter. I'm gonna start with 2, and let me see what that looks like. So you can see it's starting to moisten up. You just wanna be using enough butter to have it kind of stick together. I feel like it needs a little bit more. I mean, how can you go wrong with more butter, right? And that may be what you think. You may wanna use all of this. I would say I probably used about 2.5 ounces of butter. Okay, so Then I am going to sprinkle it over the top. And then the last thing I'm doing is I'm gonna just take a little bit more sugar and I'm just sprinkling it just kind of around the edges and a little bit right on the top. And that's it. That's gonna go in an oven at 400 for at least an hour. And this is the thing. I say 400, my oven might be 410, it might be 390. You should check yours. I feel like this can almost not go too long. Like the only way you bake this too long is when you burn the top. You wanna check it around 30 minutes. It might be starting to get too brown in the oatmeal area. And if that happens, take a piece of foil and just tent the top of it. But the other thing that might happen, you might see that it's actually getting too brown around the outside, around the circle. So if that happens, take a piece of foil, bend it in half, tear out a circle in the center, and then you place it over to cover the sections that are getting cooked too quickly. Other than the top burning, I actually like this to go for close to an hour and a half at 400 degrees. But you do have to watch the top to make sure it doesn't burn. So we're putting it in the oven, and I'll see you soon. So I've got that beautiful apple crumble in the oven, and it's gonna be a while. And while I'm waiting, I thought it would be the perfect time to have a cup of coffee. And this is my favorite little machine. Like, I cannot tell you how much I love this machine. It's called a Nomad, and it's just the cutest thing, and you can take it with you wherever you go. And it makes the perfect cup of creamy, just wonderful espresso, and you actually have fun while you're making it. And here's how. First, you're gonna load the espresso that you have, your ground beans in there. When you get this machine, it comes with this really fancy, I just love it. It's like a little thing that pats down the coffee, which is an important part of making espresso, which of course I don't have with me, but I'm gonna use this instead. But I just want you to know that it's just the greatest little like damper downer thing. Is that a word? A damper downer thing? I don't think that's a word. I am going to try to use this. I'm gonna try to use a spoon too. And then this slides back into the machine and you just press it down like that. Then you need your boiling water. I'm gonna use this cup. I don't think I've told you guys that I've been collecting vintage teacups for like over 20 years. This is one of my favorites. It's got a little flower on the inside. Isn't that the cutest thing? I don't know, cups make me happy. I boiled myself some water, and my cup is gonna hold about a half a cup, so that's what I'm gonna use. And you just pour it in here, and then you put the lid on. You get your cup underneath already. And then, this is the fun part. You are creating your own pressure. And that's how coffee comes out tasting better or worse. It's the pressure that the water is going through the coffee beans with. So on this machine, there's a little gauge, and you want to keep it in the green crema zone. And so that's what I'm doing. All right, so see, you start to do this. Like a workout. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so now I see that I have to kind of get up on my toes so I can get a good pressure. So it's in the little green gauge. If I push harder, I get it into the red gauge, but that's too fast. So I don't want it to be there. I want it to be just in this green zone, just cruising, going back and forth. Perfect cup of coffee. And I'm working my biceps and my shoulders, and I'm having fun. It's the best. And then you can tell when the water's almost out, the pressure starts to go down, and it's pretty much at the end. And the pressure's all the way down, and it's finished. Look at that creamy, wonderful cup of espresso. Oh, that's so good. Cheers to me. You know what this would go great with? A piece of apple pie. Apple crumble, to be exact. I think I'm gonna get that out of the oven. So, I had foil on there because I felt like the top was getting dark. I know I mentioned that to you guys. Okay, so there we go. Oh, wow. My favorite thing about this is the kind of like gummy candiness that it gets from cooking for a long time. I mean, that's just so great. So I am gonna cut myself a piece of this. And like I said, it isn't pie, so there's not a, there's not a crust. It's not necessarily gonna come out like a piece of pie, but it should hold some kind of shape and be just this sort of apple crumble loveliness. I'm so excited. All right, that looks beautiful. I'm gonna give it a little taste. I think this is one episode where for sure my crew who's shooting this is a little bit jealous. Oh my God. I mean, really. When I open a cafe, if I ever open a cafe, which I probably won't ever open a cafe, but if I do, this is gonna be the first thing on the menu. Wow. Okay, I don't want to film anymore. I'm just going to eat the rest of this pie. I'm so glad I have this wonderful Nomad espresso to go with it. That's not an advertisement. I just really like it. I have not died, but I've gone to heaven. You should subscribe to my channel because if I keep cooking like this, there is no telling what kind of videos you're gonna see.